Clearly this is not the Audi R8 and emergency services vehicle event video that I was expecting to be bringing you. Now at this point I could claim that this is intentional and that I've had the car slammed down to the deck for that youthful cool look, but that would be a lie. This is where my suspension strut broke. It's a sunny Sunday morning. I was about to leave to go and film at an event, not noticed the front of the car sat a little bit lower than usual. Went to drive away and heard a pop and a whoosh of air. Yep, that's right, the front coil spring had snapped, but not only had it snapped, it had left the sharp edge right against the tyre wall. As I went to set off, boom, a whoosh of air, and that sinking feeling as the front of the car seemed to sink down in slow motion. Initially I couldn't even get the trolley jack underneath, so with the aid of a scissor jack at the rear, I lifted the car just enough to get the trolley jack in at the front. Now as you can see, that spring is really in there, it's harping the sidewall of that tyre. Rather frustratingly, that tyre had only been on since last year and covered probably about 2,500 miles. So axle stands have been used here as well, just to make the car a little safer while I'm working on. Once again, a quick spray with the penetrating fluid just to help loosen off any bolts that may be seized. Hopefully in the long run that'll save us shearing any bolts off. So here I'm using a 21mm spanner and a 21mm socket on a breaker bar to release these nuts and bolts at the bottom here. These ones do get tightened up to about 170 Newton meters, so they do take a little bit of breaking free. Once I've initially broke that nut and bolt free, I switch over to a ratchet just to make things a little bit quicker and easier getting the nuts off. Now it's been quite a while since we've done a tech video like this, so by all means you may wish to go and check through the back catalogue, see some other videos such as doing the front brake discs and pads. We did an anti-roll bar as well, we even did an engine mount early on, so yeah, if you like your tech videos maybe go back and check that one. But back to this one, here we've got another small bolt to undo. This one just holds the little bracket that holds the brake line in place. There's actually only 5 bolts on each side to do, 2 at the bottom, 2 up at the strut top, and this one that holds the bracket in place. Obviously everything's been under load, so sometimes we need a little gentle persuasion just to pop those bolts out. Now turn my attention to the top mounts again. It's just these 2 bolts here to undo, and then the strut tops will be free. So once that's freed off, we just gently remove it through the wheel arch, taking care not to snag any brake lines or gaiters. Well, I think we can agree that has well and truly failed. What's happened here is the spring has actually snapped, and it's gone around this metal cup here that should keep everything in place. So that actually seems to be wedged around the side of there. I don't much fancy playing around with spring compressors, so today is a Sunday. So what I'm going to do in the morning is try and get a replacement. I'll be looking to get the shock and the spring, having it all sort of pre-assembled for me, and then it should just be a case of coming and bolting it back in. It's taken me probably all of 5 minutes maybe to unbolt this. 2 bolts at the bottom, 2 at the top. Now you should do these in pairs, so I'll have to do the other side off camera as well. As I say, it'll be the morning for me when I go looking for replacement parts, but due to the magic of video, you should see this well, about now. So you join me here on day 2. At this point I've dropped off my wheel and tyre and the pair of front struts with a local garage who are going to assemble the new struts for me. In the meantime, I've decided to take to some of the components under here with a wire brush just to remove some of the surface rust that's on there. So we've started with the wheel hub before moving on to the lower arms. So the intention here just to basically give them a little bit of a refresh while I've got access in there. So once these are all rubbed down clean, I'll just give them a quick coat with some black hammerite paint, and that'll have a day or so to dry before the new struts come back. So it's now day 3 of the front suspension repair on the Megane. So I've now got back my completed shock and spring strut unit. So what we've got here is we've got a brand new KYB shock, brand new KYB spring, but some part, and a new this top mount's new as well, but some parts weren't available. So this bottom cup, for example, that wasn't available. So what I've just done is give that one a bit of a rub down with some 80 grit sandpaper, and then just repainted that with some black hammerite. Also this rubber bump stop, that's been recycled because it was in good condition. So and same with this plastic gaiter here. So all I've done with those is use a little bit of vinyl and rubber care just to refresh those, make them look a little bit smarter. So we'll get on with fitting these back in. Sorry, there is one other part that's been recycled. There's a bearing in the bottom of here which wasn't available, but again, the ones off mine were in reasonable condition. One of the shocks, it seems, was starting to mist a little bit, so one of the shocks was probably on its way out as well. Yeah, you've got a bearing in the bottom of here because this is the part that mounts into the top of the strut tower. This goes onto the arm at the bottom, and that has to be able to turn to rotate for your steering. Right, let's get this one back on. Now, one point to note in the Mark 1 Renault Megane, there are 2 sets of bolt holes here that you can see. It seems that the bottom ones, according to the manual, are for vehicles that are not equipped with power steering. Not sure why that is, but apparently they use the 2 bottom holes. The top holes are for vehicles with power steering, which I would think is probably the vast majority of the model range. So we'll lift the shock up into place. Note in the orientation there is a little sort of cut out at the back here, so I think that's where the little lug on the top of the shock will go. We'll do these just hand tight initially to hold it in place while we fit the bolts at the bottom. So I'm about to mount the bottom of the shock back into place, and I've just given the bolts and nuts a quick clean, and I'm going to give them a fresh application of copper ease as well, just to stop them seizing. So if in the future at some point I ever have to do this again, the bolts should come away nice and easily like they did this time. So I'll try and get this back into place without damaging anything, or particularly this gaiter at the bottom or the brake lines. Seems a bit snug. there we are. We're struggling a little bit there. I think actually the half shaft must have come out. I just had to sort of twist it and push it in to actually get where I needed to be. Right. So we get the bolts the correct way round, which on in this instance is threading the bolt in from the front. So obviously everything's a bit compressed, so we just need to jiggle things around a little bit just to get it all to line up. I don't remember it being this difficult to remove. It's a little extra persuasion. So just a little bit of pressure on there to manipulate that one. We managed to knock that bolt in. Just this bottom one that's a little bit further to go. Ah, there we are. Job done. So what we'll do is we'll start to tighten this up, but we're not going to go too crazy because I'll come back later with the torque wrench. Have a check again in the manual, but I seem to think that these bolts are something like 170 Newton meters. Like I said, that's tight enough for now at least. Okay, so I know I said I weren't going to show this part, but getting the other strut in actually didn't take as long as I thought. So these top mount nuts, they're only 30 Newton meters there to go to, so I've actually got to use a different torque wrench for this as to what I will for the bottom bolts. So we've set that there by turning this at the bottom, so we've got a line there to indicate 30 Newton meters, and there's also a zero there as well, so just for fine tuning. So place that one on, just rotate it until it clicks once. It's nice and gentle, and there we go, that's one done. So don't be tempted to use a larger value torque wrench on nuts on bolts like this. There we go, it's two, because I made that mistake once before with the torque wrench, a larger one where the value went down to pretty much the value I wanted, and it ended up actually shearing the bolt. So much better getting a decent one that's sort of well within the range, just to be on the safe side. Now the strut to swivel hub, which is these down here, those bolts are 170 Newton meters, so different torque wrench for this, which we set by winding this part at the bottom, and the values are indicated on here. So because I need two hands to do this, I'm using this spanner pressed against the top of the strut there, or down here against the bolt that were above it, and that's just to secure it so I can use both hands, one to pull this and one to guide it so it doesn't slip off. There we go. Always to the first clip. Never a second. Now, one other important detail to remember is I've been working with a lot of fluids and grease and things around here, so I'm just going to give a quick clean of these brake discs with this brake cleaner. Well, I'm definitely thankful for these lighter nights. It's almost 9:10 now. I'm just giving the car a quick road test after I've put everything back together. Yeah, everything feels okay so far. Steering wheel's nice and central, car's not pulling to one side or anything. Seems to be riding smoothly enough, which is good. I will probably get the tracking checked on this car, being that I've had some of the suspension components off. Obviously the actual steering and tracking itself I haven't really messed with, but whenever you change any suspension components there's always that potential for things to be slightly out of line. But I'm actually going to leave it a few weeks before I get that done, and that's just to give the suspension a chance to settle properly. The car does look like it's sat a little bit high as well at the moment, so but once everything has time to settle properly, that suspension will compress, and then we'll get it all checked out. But I think we can call that a success. Obviously this isn't the video that I was expecting to bring you. I was about to set off Sunday morning to go do some filming of some Audi R8s and some emergency service vehicles, but obviously that wasn't to be. But the main thing is this seems to be right, so which is good, because on Saturday we're at Fabulously French. So make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification to make sure that you don't miss that, because I think that's going to be a great show. Until next time, it is goodbye from me.